The 2026 legislative session kicks off in Annapolis, and state lawmakers are gearing up to tackle some of the biggest issues. The state is up against a nearly $1.5 billion budget deficit, and if nothing changes, that number is only expected to grow.
The next 3 years, we're going to be looking at deficits over $3 billion a year.
I will once again introduce a balanced budget, and there will be no tax increases in it.
Plus, a push to end automatic charging for juveniles has some prosecutors across the state speaking out.
I think there has to be a balance for juveniles who commit the most heinous of offenses.
And as the immigration debate rages across the country, a familiar fight here in Maryland over how local law enforcement can work with ICE.
To go in there informed and do away with the public safety program is just a violation of your oath of office.
I'm going in depth on those issues and more, all from the State House. Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of Fox 45 News In Depth. I'm Mikenzie Frost. We're in Annapolis, where the 2026 legislative session is now officially underway. Over the next 3 months, lawmakers will have several issues to tackle, from the state's energy crisis to immigration and the ongoing controversy surrounding the state's foster care system. Maryland is also facing a nearly $1.5 billion budget deficit, which lawmakers will have to find a way to close as the governor promises not to raise taxes. Joining me now to talk about all of those issues is Senate Minority Leader Steve Hershey. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
All right, let's start with the budget. Obviously, that is on the mind of so many Marylanders across the state. Last year, we saw $1.6 billion in tax and fee increases, and yet we're back here with another budget deficit. What is it going to take to close it?
You know, it's interesting. We thought that after last year's budget, we were going to have a little bit of a deficit, $300 million, something that could be easily made up. But at the end of the deal, the revenues came in. They weren't what were projected, and now we're back to a $1.5 billion deficit. So, you know, we're hearing right now the, Democrat leadership is saying we're not going to raise taxes because it's an election year. Okay, so that's where you're at and say, well, maybe every year should be an election year if we're not going to raise taxes. But why are we able this year on that part to be able to raise it, close the budget gap without raising taxes? That's what we're going to push for as the minority party, is to make sure we can find the cuts in the state budget in order to close the gap without raising taxes.
And when we have the conversation about taxes, last year we had the targeted fee increases as well. Right. And fees arguably is another word for a tax. Right. Will fees be increased, do you think?
I think that they're going to end up closing this with some type of budget maneuvers. So I would be concerned if I was at a county level position right now. As you saw last year, the state pushed costs down to the counties, gave them the ability to raise the piggyback tax by 0.1%. That's probably a concern. Raiding funds. We've seen in the past program Open Space has been raided. The CEF fund has been raided. So you'll see some of that. Maybe they draw down on the rainy day fund a little bit. But we're hoping that we can find some strategic cuts in the state and to make sure, government runs effectively and efficiently, but not as expensive as it's been.
The Senate will have the budget first this year, and the governor is going to introduce his budget proposal in just a few days. What do you think is on the chopping block to make up for this deficit if tax increases are off the table?
With this governor, you would think that these cuts are going to somehow be organized or arranged that they can blame it on the Trump administration, because that's what he seems to be doing with most things. So if there have to be cuts that are made, you'll probably see that they'll tie it back to somebody. But, it remains to be seen. I think we look at it from a perspective that there's a lot of wasteful spending in government. Last year, if you remember, the Senate Republicans introduced a budget amendment on the floor that was able to close the $3 billion deficit without raising taxes. So we were able to find it. We actually got 5 Democrat votes on that amendment. So it can be done. Again, it's an election year. Advocacy groups are going to be out here. Voter concerns are going to be about there. We're going to make sure that we're going to fight to make sure that no taxes or fees are increased.
One of the biggest, issues for Marylanders is affordability, and I can't go a day without hearing from somebody saying, what is going to be done about my utility bill? It continues to go up. What can lawmakers do to address that?
Well, unfortunately, the Democrat leadership did not address it last year. And we said overall, even though they passed 2 pieces of legislation, that this would do nothing to have immediate relief or even short term as far as getting energy generation back in the state of Maryland. So we're going to have that conversation because it is becoming a bigger issue. And again, it is election year. Pocketbook issues are what drives voters. So I think we're going to see something along the lines of, can we look towards future generation in the state of Maryland? Democrats have been all about wind and solar. That's not, you can't drive an economic development profile in the state of Maryland with wind and solar. You've got to be able to come back. Maybe we take a look at these new coal-fired plants that have been closed down, see if we can get those back and running again, find some, when they were looking at offshore wind, they found all kinds of strategic means and incentives and subsidies in order to get that industry going. That's been a failure. We haven't seen that. We have to go back to what we know, get those generating facilities back online. They're close to the grid. They're already at transmission points, and see if we can handle our energy independence that way.
Looking at energy independence, though, that's more of a long-term plan. People have to pay their bills every single month, and if they go up month after month, they're looking to you and other lawmakers to say, what can you do to help me?
Well, it's interesting. It's just a setup that we have. BGE, Pepco, Delmarva, they're regulated utilities. The Public Service Commission is what determines the price. Now, they go in, of course, and they ask for a certain price. It can come down, but that's where it is. The other side of the energy bill, the generation side, that's what we've seen spike. And that's a direct result of Democrat policies that have closed these in-state generating facilities. So yes, you have to go back and take a look at it. We think those are the fastest to bring back online. And, again, given the current conditions, PJM is saying that we're going to have rolling brownouts as early as next year. We've got to address it this year.
The PSC chair, the former PSC chair, had raised some questions about whether that date was really going to come to reality or not. I think this conversation, we have a lot to talk about with energy and other issues, but I want to talk about education spending because the blueprint continues to be a pinch point for the budget, and the governor wants to put more money and spend more money for student and per pupil funding. The state went down this road with Thornton several years ago. How much more money is the State House willing to spend in the classroom?
Well, keep in mind, increasing education spending is a big talking point for Democrats. That's what they love to talk about. As soon as he came out with that announcement that Maryland was spending over $10 billion in education, we said, but the interesting thing is there's 11,000 less students this year. So why are we spending more money to educate less individuals? You can come back and they could say, well, maybe maintenance went up or operating costs. Well, that's nothing to be excited about. That's nothing to celebrate. So, we really have to look at education spending right now. The problem is with this budget this year, Blueprint is already funded. So I think the Democrats are going to try to divert the attention away from the Blueprint. It's handled this year. The big problem is next year and following after that, when all of a sudden you're getting into $3 billion a year deficits because of the full implementation of the Blueprint. We want to make sure that that gets addressed now, that conversation is being had rather than just kicking that down the road.
I want to talk to you about the investigative hearings and accountability measures when it comes to the State House. How important is it for you to see this investigative committee really come to fruition to hold agencies accountable? We've seen failure after failure when it comes to these audits, and it doesn't seem like changes are being made.
Well, again, there's been scathing audit reports that have come out. The governor is, I'm sure, trying to make sure that these are 2 to 3 day news cycles and don't come back up again. The Republican caucuses are going to keep that on the front burner. We want to make sure that these issues are being discussed because at the end of the day, this is what's driving up the cost of government. And so if you can't run an efficient government that's supposed to be doing its core mission, then what are we paying for? And so you can't come back and say, we've got all these problems with this mismanagement of government, but yet we have to raise your taxes in order to fund it. So we're going to keep that at the forefront. We're going to look at this investigative committee and see if we can find a way to make sure that the governor and his departments are held accountable for it.
All right, Senator Hershey, we're out of time. Thank you so much. I appreciate your insight. Look forward to the next 80-some days left.
That's right. Well, thanks very much.
All right, our conversation continues right after the break.
Grab my harness, the one that makes my butt look good.
Me and my crew, yeah, we the best when we walk in a room. We serve heads.
I'm down.
We serve heads.
Let's roll.
Yeah, serve heads.
We've been given an order, and we gotta follow it. Isn't that free?
No.
We serve heads.
There are way worse dads than me, okay?
Name one.
Stalin.
We serve heads.
Tonight at 9 on Fox 45.
Serve heads.
Sorry, I nodded off. What happened?
Even if you have moderate to severe eczema, you can feel the rhythm, feel the flow. And Dupixent helps you feel the heal. It helps calm the key source of inflammation under the skin that can cause eczema. Some adults saw fast itch relief after the first dose and long-lasting clear skin at 1 year. Many even saw 90% clear skin. Severe allergic reactions, including skin reactions, can occur. Get help right away for face, mouth, tongue, or throat swelling, wheezing, or trouble breathing. Tell your doctor of new or worsening eye problems like eye pain or vision changes, skin symptoms, joint aches and pain, or a parasitic infection. Don't change or stop other treatments without talking to your doctor. Stay ahead of eczema and help heal your skin from within. Dupixent, the #1 prescribed biologic by dermatologists and allergists. Ask your eczema specialist about Dupixent today.
When you bundle our Consumer Reports recommended Treasure mattress with Powerball Elite adjustable base, you get more relaxation and more energized mornings. I said, and more energized mornings.
Oh my mom!
Owning a Toyota is about getting more. And with the most eye-catching selection of SUVs, your Toyota dealer is the four-wheel and all-wheel drive headquarters this winter. So check out a Grand Highlander with all the space and style you want and the efficiency and handling you need. Buy a Grand Highlander today with 4.99% financing, a RAV4 with 4.75% financing, or get an affordable lease on an all-wheel drive Corolla Cross. Toyota, let's go places.
Get beautiful new floors with Luna's 70% off sale. That's carpet, laminate, and even hardwood, 70% off. Reserve your free in-home appointment at luna.com or call
877-241-LUNA.
Welcome back to Fox 45 News In Depth. If you're just now joining us, we're coming to you from Annapolis, from the State House for the start of the 2026 legislative session. Lawmakers are facing yet another budget deficit this year as debate begins about how to tackle it. Joining me now to talk about a wide range of issues is Senate President Bill Ferguson. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I want to jump right into the budget because last year we saw a $1.6 billion increase in taxes and fees. The governor has made it clear, you have said it as well, and the House Speaker has said no tax increases, and I think you've even gone so far as saying fees as well. At the end of the day, something must be cut or you're going to dip into the rainy day fund. So how do we do this?
Yeah, I mean, look, we did not expect to be where we are today. I think that what we are experiencing here in Maryland is very similar to what Maryland families are experiencing with inflation. It is acute and most challenging because most of those costs have come from healthcare, and healthcare inflation has risen faster than any other expense. And so those entitlements through Medicaid and kind of the most vulnerable amongst us, those costs are very real and came in way higher than anticipated. I do not believe that we need to touch revenues, be it through taxes or fees, in order to solve this problem. But that means it's not going to be easy, and we're going to have to really dive into each program and figure out how can we cost contain, how can we reduce formulas, how can we delay projects. We have to live within our means, and that's going to be our approach.
Delay formulas, do you think that it's time to look at education funding and how the state spends money? Maryland is ranks near the top in per pupil funding. Results vary depending on what jurisdiction in. I know you're very familiar with classroom results in Baltimore City. Is now the time to put more money into the classroom when the budget deficit is what it is and results don't seem to be improving?
I mean, I think that we will have a fully funded formula with the Blueprint Fund this year. This was anticipated when we passed it back in 2020 with some adjustments because there was a veto and override. We put forward a plan so that there would be at least the first 5 years of implementation would be fully funded. That's been the case, and we should continue down that path because we've made districts have relied on those funds in order to make investments in how to improve their schools. And we have seen progress. We've seen over the last 3 years the fastest rate of growth for 3rd and 8th grade reading than we've seen in many years past. We also put in a check-in point halfway through. So in 2027, there is a check-in for the Blueprint to say, do we have the sustainable resources to fund it, and are we getting the results we want to see? Mm-hmm. So that's coming. That is in 2027, and that's
why not do it now, though?
Because it takes time. When you are making investments and changing in schools, it doesn't change overnight. These are big systems that you're impacting over 800,000 children. And so you want to make sustainable decisions, not just quick fix decisions. And so I think we've laid out a formula. We're seeing the implementation. We're seeing signs of progress. We're also seeing signs of things where we may have to just adjust down the line. And that was anticipated, just like any big program. And so I do believe that we can fully fund the blueprint this year, and we will have, in subsequent years, as planned, conversations about where adjustments may or may not need to be made.
I want to talk about immigration policy. SB 1 was introduced on the first day of session that has to do with, banning face coverings for regular law enforcement activities. Similar legislation is being challenged in court in California. How do you see that really being, implemented and enforced in the state of Maryland?
Well, I think it's important to step back quickly and say, why would we be considering this? Right now, over the last 7 months, what we've seen with ICE and its enforcement across the country and in Maryland has been, in my opinion, totally unconscionable. Ripping people out of cars, ripping them out of homes, creating total terror and fear. It is totally unacceptable. And as a state, it flies in the face of Maryland values. And so what I believe fundamentally is that we have benefited by restoring trust between law enforcement and the community that they serve. That has been inherent in creating greater safety in the state of Maryland. What is happening with ICE is destroying that value. And so Maryland should not be partnering with organizations that are destroying that trust between communities and law enforcement officials. And so by having masked police officers run up, I know how I would feel if a masked officer ran up to my car without identification. It would be terrifying. How do you know who it is? And so that approach, that paramilitary approach, it destroys trust. And that cannot be how we approach law enforcement and public safety in the state of Maryland.
287G ban, that is another priority. We've heard from several sheriffs who have this program in place argue, though, that this would make it, less safe for their communities if they don't have that partnership with the federal government and ICE officials. I want to read you something. We got a statement from Sheriff Gaylor, who obviously has 287G. He says he calls this misguided. I have no doubt that this direction will earn Maryland's sanctuary status, inviting large-scale immigration enforcement operations in our communities. Why end the partnership if the law enforcement experts doing it say that it would make their communities less safe?
If you partner with an organization that is destroying your core values of who you are as a people, you're ruining the sense of democracy. And at the end of the day, these partnerships with an organization that's using Black Hawk helicopters to fast rope down onto apartment buildings, it's just simply not how we should function in American society. Yes,
but
of course we should enforce
in Maryland?
Well, in Glen Burnie, take Glen Burnie is what happened where we had an account that was totally flipped over. The lack of transparency in this organization is exactly the type of behavior that destroyed trust between law enforcement and the very, very, very talented men and women of law enforcement who want that same respect and understanding. We need to protect that. We can't have these lack of transparent activities that are happening by ICE. It makes Maryland less safe to continue along these lines.
I want to look at investigative committees and the push for more accountability in state government. Republicans want an investigative committee. Is that something that you believe is necessary, given the history of the scathing audits that the state continues to see?
Yeah, I would say we do have investigative committees. It's the budget committees that every single year are reviewing and approving budgets.
But if these audits continue to happen, is that really a failure on those committees' behalf?
No, I think we have an incredibly talented audit division. It's nonpartisan, apolitical. Out of our Department of Legislative Services, I would say it's a national model and has gotten awards for the way that they have been able to review executive agencies to find savings and where things have gone wrong. The budget committees review those audits every year and make decisions about each agency's budget with restrictions and cutting programs that are not working effectively or required reports that withhold money. And so we have a robust process. We need to make sure that it's followed with fidelity. We have to have an increased focus this year. And I think that state agencies post-COVID have a lot of important reforms that are going to be needed in order to make sure that tax dollars are spent well.
We're out of time, but I want to ask you one question about BGE bills, because there's not a day goes by that people don't ask me, what are lawmakers doing to help me with my rising BGE and utility bill?
Look, first and foremost, I get it. I live in a regular row home in the city, and last month I had a $600 BGE bill. It almost threw me to the floor. it's not acceptable. The challenge is we are living in an energy market that has changed in the last few years for the first time in 15 years. We have an increased demand of energy, also when we have a reduced supply. We are trying to have a threefold approach where we have immediate short-term fixes by giving rebates in the highest consumption months of the year. We'll continue that moving forward. In the medium term, we need fast deployed energy sources, renewables that have been decimated because of the Republican budget bill and have killed wind and solar and battery projects across the country and in Maryland.
Will that help? Will that be enough?
No, we need all of the above. We need all of the above. We need cleaner and affordable energy generated here in Maryland. We've made progress with what we did last year. We have to build on it this year to see more cleaner and more affordable energy happening in Maryland so that we can lower these bills. I mean, it's all about getting more and faster.
All right, we'll have to end it there. Thank you so much. Love to have you back to continue more conversations. Stay with us. Fox 45 News In Depth. We'll be right back.
Get stronger with best-in-class equipment at Planet Fitness. Save $28 or more when you join for just $1 down, $15 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal extended to Friday, January 16th.
You got this.
This winter, everyone is headed to Bob Bell, and we mean everyone. It's Bob Bell Chevy's Snow Much Savings Event. Save up to $11,000 on a new Silverado from Baltimore's #1 selling Silverado dealer. Come see us.
Baltimore's #1 hit music station, Z1043.
The biggest hits that everyone is talking about.
It's Lil Nas X.
It's Lizzo.
Harry Styles.
Sam Smith. Z1043 is wherever you are.
They're always entertaining.
Z1043.
Every day, Fox 45 News holds our leaders accountable.
How can you say that everything's safe after what was found in this report?
Questioning how your money is being spent.
It's easy for nonprofits to hide money. If they can't comply with the law, what are they getting tax dollars for?
Being relentless when no answers are given.
Do Marylanders deserve to hear from their governor on this critical issue?
You trust us to hold our leaders accountable, and we deliver. Watch and see the difference only on Fox 45 News.
Let's go really big. It's the Big T Podcast, your weekly cheat code for the world of tennis.
But I still think Coco will win another major next year.
Listen on your favorite podcast networks and watch on YouTube and the Tennis Channel app.
This winter, everyone is headed to Bob Bell, and we mean everyone. It's Bob Bell Chevy's Snow Much Savings Event. Save on the hot new Chevy Trax as low as $22,500 and no payments for 120 days. Come see us.
Get stronger with best-in-class equipment at Planet Fitness. Save $28 or more when you join for just $1 down, $15 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal extended to Friday, January 16th.
You got this.
Welcome back to Fox 45 News In Depth. If you're just now joining us, we're coming to you from the State House as the 2026 legislative session gets underway. Joining me now to talk about some very important issues is Senator Will Smith. You're also the chair of the Judicial Proceedings Committee. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I want to talk about automatic charging. Sure. I know that this was a priority for you last year. It didn't make it through the Senate. And this year, it's not exactly the same, right? It's the way that you are introducing this bill. It's going to be up to the judge to decide where a juvenile case starts, either in the juvenile system or the adult court system.
That's right. So today in Maryland, there are 33 offenses for which a juvenile can be automatically charged and it will automatically go up to the adult system. What I'm asking for is to have a judge make the decision as to where that goes, to balance and weigh all the factors and make an informed decision as to where that case goes. Right now, we charge more youths as adults than any other state per capita, than every state in the union except for Alabama. 9 out of 10 of those youths are going to be children of color. 8 out of 10 are going to be African Americans. We are wasting $19 million a year charging youths as adults automatically. And so my bill simply relegates that decision to a judge for some of those offenses, right? The more serious offenses are still going to be automatically charged as adults. So like the more, rape, murder, those things are still going to be eligible for automatic charging. But what my bill does is take a number of those offenses and says, hey, a judge should make an informed decision and decide where that case goes.
Now, state's attorneys across the state are lining up in opposition to this legislation. They argue that it would hinder public safety, and they believe that the system it makes it more difficult for cases to move from the juvenile system to the adult system because the process is a little different. Experts, I know you've talked to a lot of people about this. Does the state's attorney's opinion change your mind at all?
No, I think what my constituents and what the people of Maryland should know is that I'm not a bleeding heart on this issue. I'm just following the facts and all the information. And so I honestly don't understand what that analysis is where that's coming from. Because having a judge decide where the case goes is obviously that's an element of fairness, but also we're going to save a lot of money and time, and that money can be reinvested in prevention and treatment measures. But also, when you go to the adult system, cases can languish for up to 180 days. That kid is not going to get services, they're not going to get education, and they're going to be more likely to recidivate. 85% of the cases that start off in the adult system are going to come back down to the juvenile system anyway. If you have that case, if you have a judge making an informed decision to start that case, let's say in the juvenile system, that youth is going to get treatment, services, and is going to be less likely to recidivate. So not only are you going to save money, you're going to also have better public safety outcomes. And so for the life of me, I just can't understand the opposition to this bill. It's a measured and balanced approach to public safety and to better outcomes for our youth and to more efficient use of our state taxpayer dollars in the youth justice system. So I don't understand it.
Prosecutors also say that the level of services and treatment availability within DJS is just not there. They are struggling to meet the needs of the kids already within the system, and to add more, they say, is just doesn't make any sense to them.
One thing I'd point out first is that in the adult system, you're going to get no services. In the juvenile system, you're going to have a panoply of services, a number of services that you have access to. It's not ideal. It's not ultimate, right? We still have a lot of work to do, but it's something and not nothing. Second is that 85% of the cases that start off in the adult system will be coming back down to the juvenile system. So DJS is already ingesting that work. It's just going to take a long period of time. If you go to the adult system, you're going to waste $150,000 on average per kid, at $19 million a year. They're going to get no services. They're going to get no rehabilitation. You're going to have worse public safety outcomes. Whereas if a judge can balance and weigh those public safety factors, all the elements of the case, and make an informed decision, we're going to have better public safety outcomes and better use of taxpayer money.
I think you're going to see a lot of prosecutors in your committee testifying against this bill. The Senate president, really quickly, last year he was on the fence about it. Do you think he's changed his mind?
Look, my job is to make a case for my legislation to not only the Senate president, but to all of my colleagues. And so I'm going to do my level best to make that case. And we'll see where we end up this session.
All right, Senator Will Smith, I really appreciate your time. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. That's it for this week's edition of Fox 45 News In Depth. I'm Mikenzie Frost. Hey, I'm Mikenzie Frost. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Check out Fox Baltimore on all of our social media pages for more videos just like this.